Well, hello, everybody. It is the last day of February, February 28th in 2023. This is our Southern California housing market update. My name is Stephen Meade with Domicile Real Estate here in Southern California. And kind of an interesting question. Two people so far today have asked me this, so I thought it'd be kind of the question that I'd imagine a few others of you are asking. And are we going to see that springtime bounce continue onward? And the question is, or rather the answer to that question is maybe. And I'm going to talk about why it's a maybe going forward here. So let's go ahead. Let's jump right into it. Let's get started. And once again, if you are looking to buy or sell real estate in Southern California, namely Los Angeles, Orange counties, we would love to lend you our expertise. Definitely reach out. Let's get started. So here we have kind of the thing. This is going to be in the yes category, right? This is total active listings, and we have seen a rather alarming trend. It started a couple of weeks ago, and it is continuing. And that is, if you look here at our active listings under $1 million, and we see that really since probably the minimum, or probably about the middle of January, this number has been going down. This isn't just a blip on the radar. Contrast that with what the spring normally looks like, right? It's normally a very gentle rise, and we go through May and that inventory builds up. That's not happening this year. And really, as I've said it in the past, scarcity is really what's driving this market. It's not about, people say, why haven't home prices fallen in a big amount in the face of interest rates? And the reason why they haven't is because there simply aren't that many houses for sale available for consumers to buy. It is that balance of supply and demand that really dictates a lot of the market forces. Even if you look down here on 1 to 2 million, this has been flat. It just has not really recovered. In fact, we're to the point where it's not that many more homes available this year than there were, last year, right at the beginning of March. Look at where we are here under 1 million, and our total actives were under 5,000, and we're probably at about 3,500 here. I mean, it's maybe down, it's maybe 30% higher than last year. That's not really a very big deal, especially considering that last year was an almost no inventory year. And look at the slope on this curve. Things are getting worse, not better for buyers on that inventory front. Now, the converse is, if you're a seller, guess what? If you thought you'd really missed your boat, you probably haven't. Buyers don't have a lot of choice right now. They are going to come look at your house. So if we take a look here at our last 14 days of new listings, this tells you a lot of where the problem is. Look at this number of new listings hitting the market versus this time last year. We are at roughly 1,800 new listings under $1 million in the last 2 weeks. Where were we last year? Gosh, 2,800, right? I mean, just way more listings. And it's the same story here in our 1 to 2 million category. We are way down, and these are not really showing signs of increasing, at least not much, maybe a little bit here on 1 to 2 million. We're actually going down. You see this slope towards the end of the year. I mean, there were more homes heading onto the market in the beginning of November than there are in the last 2 weeks of February. That is crazy, right? And that really is going to tell you a lot about why we are where we are in the market. This is the one thing that's telling me that maybe there will be a little bit of a reprieve for buyers, possibly, right? And I'm being incredibly tentative about that. This is the last 14 days new escrows. And what do you notice here in our under $1 million category? We kind of peaked, maybe about 2-3 weeks ago. And the reason why, of course, is that is when interest rates started going back up again. And that entry level into the market, that under $1 million market, is really driven by interest rates, or at least the demand is being driven quite heavily by interest rates. The problem is there still are not very many houses for people in that category to buy. If you look at our absorption rate, yes, it turned the corner and it's dropped a little bit, but dropping to the high 90s is not really dropping. Like, this is still a situation where we are basically seeing that for every new home that comes onto the market, there is a ready and willing buyer who ends up buying a house, right? Like, we're not seeing inventory start to grow. which is what really needs to happen to kind of see some changes in prices, or at least the kind of changes that buyers are looking for in prices. Even in our 1 to 2 million category, I mean, these are very healthy absorption numbers. I mean, this is back where we were in the spring of last year. Prices. What did I tell you, a few weeks back, is that we were going to see a little bit of a bounce in prices. Look at our median, bounced in the last 2 weeks. 75th percentile, bounced in the last month, right? These prices, if we look here, where are we trending on 75th percentile? These prices are basically exactly the same as they were back at the beginning of November. Where are we here? We are not too far off where we were the whole fall in terms of our median, right? And I know the big news is that in December, prices dropped. Well, that was December. We are now almost to March, 2 months into the year, and I'm telling you that trend reversed at least partially. Even our entry level number, most sensitive to interest rates, that's still looking like where it was at the end of the year. There has not been a huge amount of price movement on that front. We haven't been seeing wholesale drops. Now, if we keep going here, if we look at our percent active after 14 days in the market, that number too is dropping, indicating a more competitive market. Now, again, like I said, this entry level into the market especially is driven by interest rates, and that drives that demand. If we look at our close to list ratio, right, this is going down. I mean, remember those heady days last spring when the average home was selling for almost 105% of its list price? Well, guess what? Things have changed. That steadily dropped and dropped and dropped, and then kind of towards the beginning of the year, it bounced back. And we see here, as of right now, the closed price on homes, and again, this data is 4 to 6 weeks old because this is based on closed information. Look at where this is trending. This is trending, over 99% for both of these. And then we've got our days on market for new contracts, right? This is a little bit more of an up-to-date figure because this is talking about the homes that went under contract in the last 2 weeks. We do see that days on market actually went up a little bit for those $1 to $2 million properties, and it is pretty much flat for under 1 million. But look at what happened. It peaked here around 55 days, and it has fallen, to this point here, right around 40 days. That is still a relatively short days on market period for homes under $1 million. 40 days is not long by any stretch of the imagination. And then we have the three-way, and I think this tells kind of an interesting story here. If you look at this payment index, right, this is basically the payment on a median priced home at prevailing 30-year fixed interest rates. You can see that payment index really peaked right here around that end of October, beginning of November. It dropped along with interest rates, then it held steady, it dropped a little more, and then it has bounced back a little bit as those rates have gone up. And this is a very up-to-the-minute data. And also remember how to read this. We normalized all of this data and indexed it to June of 2018. So the payment on a median priced home today, almost 5 years later, is 60% higher than it was in June of 2018. Rents are about 40% higher than they were, and inflation is about 20% higher since June of 2018. But if you look, there's a little fly in the ointment here. Look at that rent number on single family homes rising up a little bit again. Remember, that number actually peaked here over last summer, over that 140% level, then it eased a little bit. I think this happened as more people pulled homes from the market and listed them for rent, and now it is going back up. It's this gap that we are always looking at and watching. This gap cannot get too far out of whack. That's really when things kind of start to tend to happen. Finally, we've got our prevailing 30-year fixed mortgage rates. This is based on a national basis, and we see the uptick that you see here heading towards the mid 6%. I think it's at one point we are still in the low sixes for well-qualified borrowers. A lot of that entry-level price range really lives and dies by these prevailing mortgage rates. We've got some inflation news coming, I think, in about 2 weeks from today. The markets and the bond markets really do rely on that inflation data to determine sort of their trajectory. And when you think about it, that's really what mortgage rates are about. A 30-year mortgage rate is about not what about banks think's going to happen next year. It's about what they think the next 10 years are going to look like, because the average mortgage is held for about 10 years. Depending on how things go, that raises and lowers over time, but that tends to be the number that a lot of mortgage bankers use when they are running their calculations on these things and where the bond market is looking. So that inflation data that's going to come out in about 2 weeks, that will be for the February inflation numbers, that will really tell a pretty big story about where those rates might go, or if they're going to ease back down or not, and what the Fed is going to do. Anyhow, questions and comments, always, we love them. Do not forget to like, subscribe, and smash that notification bell. Let's see, what else? Looking to buy or sell in Southern California? You'd like to work with agents that actually know what they're doing? Definitely give us a call or send us an email. And yeah, I think that's about it. We'll see you again real soon.